Okay, so this is going to be a little different kind of video. People ask me, how do I know what kind of e-bike I should get? Any advice? I'm looking for a bike, I want one, it looks like these are really cool. How do I know what I should be getting of different styles? How do I even know what I should get? So because I've reviewed and ridden a ton of different bikes, I could give some opinion on potentially what bike someone would want. Now, it's very rare for me to have 4 Lectric brand e-bikes all in one place in my garage, especially because this is the width of my garage and we only can go 2 cars deep and we have 2 cars. So typically I have to either take a car out whenever I'm doing an unboxing and park it on streets and then do my filming, clean everything up, put the cars back in. There's very little opportunity for me to bring the bikes into one place. And because of the way that things are situating right now, these 3 bikes, the Lectric XP Lite, the Lectric One, and the Lectric XPress are together in the garage at one point because I use these the most, I guess, out of everything. This has just been sent to me by Lectric. By the way, every single one of these bikes, full disclosure, has been sent to me by Lectric to do reviews. I also have the 3.0, the Expedition 2.0, and I have a bunch of different electric bikes and I absolutely love them. But this is a good way for me to explain differences between the different bikes that are available. Now, there's a few questions that I always ask people on what they might want out of a bike first. And usually the first question I always ask is, how tall are you? Because a lot of times people ask me, for a friend of friends that I've never met before, and I don't know how tall they are. And the reason being is that I have found that a lot of times e-bikes can be too large for people. Now, the one thing about the Lectric line, honestly, is that most of the bikes will fit the biggest range of rider sizes. Even the XP Lite can really fit someone who's pretty tall. There's the opportunity for most people to be able to ride all the different bikes. Now, one thing I did notice about the Lectric XP bikes, so I'm talking about the XP1, XP2, XP3, the XP Lite. If you get the step over model, I have found a lot of people saying that after they get the step over that they prefer the step through. Now the XP Lite only comes in this one frame size, but there are the XP step throughs. Now I had the XP 1.0 which I purchased, which was my first e-bike, and I got a step through bike because I've figured my wife and I, between the two of us, if she wanted to ride, that would be easier for her. So the reason why I always ask about height is because if they are looking for a non-electric bike, then that's going to be a first consideration. They need to realize that they should be at a certain height level. Now, there are the XPress, which has a step-through frame, and then the XP, which has a step-over frame. Those people might want to consider if they're shorter, like about my height, 5'5" and below. As a 5'5" foot person, I can fit any step-over bike, typically without a problem, but the stand-over part of the frame at 29 inches, once it hits 30 inches, it is very uncomfortable for me to try to stand like this over a frame that is 30 inches high. So like these bikes, they're very low. I can get through and there's a lot of clearance under here. So the step over height's pretty easy, and then the height here is not an issue. But when you have a high step frame, you may have to stop and then be like leaning this way in order for you not to have a lot of pressure between your legs. That's going to be super uncomfortable. So something to keep in mind, height is the #1 thing. I remember wanting to get a Rad Rover when I first wanted, and even I got a bolt-in Blackbird, and these are big bikes like this that are step over, and they were too big for me. When I came to a stop, I had to lean. I could not stand straight over like this. The height of 29 inches was just a little too tall. I needed to be taller or have a smaller bike. So keep that in mind. The other thing is, of course, safety-wise, there's nothing more unsafe than a bike that's not the right size for you. Your ability to get off the bike, to stop, to get going is going to be highly affected. So height is the #1 thing I always ask for first. If you're 5'7" and above, you're going to be able to fit some of the larger frames without a problem. If you're 5'6" and below, you might want to consider looking at the different sizes that might be available if the bike has different sizes. Now, the other thing, that's just first and foremost, because that eliminates a lot of bikes. The second question I ask that eliminates a lot of bikes is, what are you going to use it for and how strong of a rider are you? And the reason I ask that is because a bike like this small can be very easy for someone to ride, but it also doesn't have a ton of power, which could be perfect for someone who is not a strong rider. I consider a strong rider somebody who can jump on any bike, feels comfortable on a bike, pretty much grew up on a bike possibly, or is riding constantly and rides all the time. That's a strong rider, someone who feels like a bike is a part of them. Others that are maybe mediocre riders are those, I know how to ride a bike, haven't ridden it for 20 years. I only rode it around in my cul-de-sac as a kid, but never really went really far. But it wasn't something that I used every day for transportation in the past where I'm very comfortable with it. And that would be like a medium rider. Now, a beginner rider is someone who's, I haven't ridden for 30 years. I rarely rode as a kid. I just kind of know how to balance it. And this is something that I just gonna want to try. Then you definitely, I wouldn't be recommending some of the higher powered bikes. There's no reason to have one like that. This person is not probably going to be using it. So I asked them, what else are they going to be using it for? Are they going to use it for commuting? Are they going to want to go off-roading a lot? Do they have on and off-road? How much have they been riding lately? Because that's going to be also muscle strength is going to be a little different. And how flexible are they? Because do they want to step through? Do they? And some of the people will already know these answers, basically some research that they've been doing, but others will just have absolutely no clue what they're looking for. And of course, there's so many different things to think about. The power of a bike. Are they comfortable with shifting? That's another thing. If they're not, they don't want a bike that shifts at all, then they could go with something like the XP Lite, which is a single gear, doesn't have any shifting, or the Lectric One, which has an automatic transmission. And that comes to now, how much can they afford? So amongst the top questions, and now there's no specific order. A lot of times they say, what do you want to know? And they say, I have a budget of this. If I see them, I already know how tall they are. And then I can ask them about the different other questions. But depending on what their situation is, sometimes they're going to want a bike that's in a specific budget. Some people have no budget whatsoever. Others are saying, I'm going to be sharing it with somebody else. So that all things are different in considerations you need to think about. But most of all, I'd like to recommend a bike that someone's going to want to ride. Because if you don't want to ride it, or it's not going to be worth getting one, especially if even the least expensive bike here is about $800. And so start that kind of money to have sit on the side, you're never going to use it after you use it 3 times. It's just not something that's going to be enjoyable for me to have made a recommendation for. So I like to ask, also, what is your storage space? Like for me, the reason why these 2 bikes are in somewhere where I can access in the garage is because they can fold down the handlebars. And even for someone who lives in an apartment, or to be able to fold down the handlebars, all of a sudden, this bike can be put up against the wall, and there's no handlebar sticking out. So space, like if you live in an apartment or even have a thin space of a garage, or even in an office, if you're going to put it against the wall, you don't want the handlebar sticking out and hitting people or scratching the cars. Something like this, that's why these handlebars can come down, make it really amazing to have. The XP Lite as well has the ability to fold. So when you have a bike that someone says, I'm going to do a lot of camping, or I have an RV, and they want a bike that can fold, then a bike like this, I should have put the stand up first, because it's so small, it can fit in the trunk of a car even. So if they do a lot of traveling and they want an ability to have a bike around with them, that's another reason why they might want to be looking at this. Lectric has dominated the market with the folding e-bikes. By far, they are the king, and they've made some very good bikes. Now I want to talk about if you want to do off-roading. So this has a 750 watt motor. It's a super powerful bike, and it has these fat tires. Because of that, it does make it a little heavier, obviously a lot more bulky. I mean, if you look at the size of this thing, this bike is absolutely huge. Now, I have tried the step over, it's just fine for me too, but to have a step through makes it very convenient. It has suspension in the front as well, which makes it very soft on the ride. And this type of ride is completely different. Now, can somebody commute with this? Absolutely. If they have maybe a commute that does go off-road or on a fire trail part-time, they can use something like this and they would absolutely love it and enjoy it, and they have the versatility. Because an off-road bike can be ridden on-road. The only thing is you may lose a little efficiency. These bikes can all go about 40 miles pretty much without a problem, especially if you're helping it. Some can go even further, but to have that kind of mileage on it means most people, I think the average commute is between 4 to 14 miles, usually one way, and especially in the LA area or Southern California area. So this would easily be able to get you to work, charge the battery while you're working, and then put the battery back in, and you can be on your way home. And that would be, even a bike like this would be absolutely a blast. And on the weekends, if you want to hit the trails up in the mountains, you can do that with something like this. This is going to be obviously for a stronger rider, because I would also say if someone who's not a stronger rider, I start thinking about smaller bikes for them, only because of safety. Now, I never judge a person by their look, because I have seen some people who I would not think was athletic, they jump on a bike and boom, they're flying and they're absolutely having a blast. And you can tell they are super comfortable on any bike. So that's something I never just do. I want to ask them, how often do you ride? What was your experience? Now, this is the XPress, one of Lectric's newest bikes that I am looking and working on a review right now, along with the Lectric One in the back there. These bikes are, I'm going to say these two bikes really are the ultimate commuters. Now this XPress hits a lot of the main buttons on commuting. It's a step through. It is not very heavy at all. As far as a bike would go, it's pretty light. It has a really smooth ride, front suspension as well, and you have this bike costing only at, I think it starts at $999 for a 500 watt motor on it. And then you have a 750 also available on that. In fact, I will be definitely putting the price on the screen here, but let me double check on this because, let me see. Okay, so the 750 is $1299 and the 500 watt it's $999. And I took this for a 14-mile ride today. And I gotta tell you, at a 500 watt, it's shocking how much power they put in a 500 watt motor. Now it does peak out at close to 1,000 watts. I did see it on top showing on the screen here. So you do have a bike that can definitely haul even people that may be a little heavier. It does not come with a rack though. So as a commuter bike, you can pick up the rack and fender set for $100. Doesn't rain very much in Southern California, but I do notice whenever I'm riding, fenders are very helpful because people water their lawns and sprinklers. So you do run over some puddles or at least water flow that would get and splash you up on here. So I would recommend, if you're picking up a bike, budget in the extra $100 for the rack and the fender set at least, and then you'll be able to not have to worry about getting wet or having a streak up your back from water splashing up. It is not necessary though. And of course, if you look at these tires here, they're very thin as far as the width, so they're not like the fat tire bikes, which this means more efficiency. Also at 27-inch rims, 27 and a half, I believe, diameter rims here, this size of a tire also gives a lot more efficiency as far as your motor spinning. It doesn't have to spin as hard because once you start going, it really does have a lot of ability to keep you moving forward. And if you're helping it out, it has also one of the newest torque sensors, the PWR system. In the past, I would say that there are pros and cons about torque systems, that I would sometimes even prefer a cadence, but this bike has changed my mind in many ways. The other thing is these swept-back handlebars. These handlebars, usually I don't like handlebars like this. In fact, in the past, I've had issues with not wanting to ride a bike that had these type of swept back because the angles of your handlebars are like this. The thing is about the way they designed this bike is you are so straight up and down, it's a lot more comfortable for one thing. But even when you're pedaling, they put lock grips, which is really a simple solution for any, so that it doesn't feel like it's slipping off, because I've had grips do that when you're pulling this way. That's why typically most handlebars are straight, where you have it like this, because that way you don't have to worry about your grips coming off, because when you're pulling this way and not like for the grip to come off. But with the locking grips here, not an issue whatsoever. And because of the way that this is built and it's so powerful, you don't really have to be using so much of your strength to get up even hills. I would say this is going to be one of their biggest winning bikes. They are hitting a market at a price point at $1,000. This is one of the best priced, in fact, I think it's the best priced e-bike for a commuter. It's minimalistic except for the components. You have a 500 watt motor that puts out close to 1,000, and then you have this torque sensor that runs so smoothly that at EPS level 5, even for 500 watt, it feels like you're barely helping it, and the bike is just taking off on its own. And of course you can control that. It is very smooth, and the thumb throttle here as well just helps you at the starts if you need to. If you forget to put in a lower gear, you'll already be ready to go because you can have help from your throttle. This is going to be an amazing seller for them. Now, there are two other bikes that I don't have here. I wish I did. The XP 3.0 is a lot like this style. It's a folder. Usually it has a rack, fender, everything else. It is a powerful bike that is good for almost all around anything. It is, I think, their #1 seller right now. And the other bike that I don't have here is the Expedition, because the guys who ride with me, if they want to take one of the bikes home with them, they can take it home with them. John, who's my camera guy, he rides a lot, especially for his lunch breaks. He liked the 3.0. I let him go ahead and take that one. And Steven, who also rides with us, he has the kids, and it's a cargo bike, the Expedition. So if you're going to be doing deliveries, that's an amazing bike to have. If you have kids that you want to throw in the back that are, light enough, I think kindergartner, preschool, first, second grade will all be able to ride in the orbiter seats that they have in there. He puts 2 of his kids in, and they ride off to school a few blocks down the street, drop them off, and he picks them up on those. That Expedition is amazing. So that kind of need you also have. Now, if someone is on the heavier side, I would definitely consider telling them looking at something like a cargo bike. Or if they're not that flexible and then they're on the heavier side, they might want to stay with the 20-inch size tires like these. And the Expedition is not foldable. The XP 3.0 is. So the XP 3.0 has a very powerful motor that can still haul pretty good, but the Expedition, made for cargo and heavier weights, that bike is maybe ideal for someone who might be a little heavier and think about getting a bike like that. Now, this is the Lectric One. I took off the rack. In fact, I have the rack hanging here and the fender that will be put back on when I'm going to do the full review because it does have the tail light on it. But this is the bike that has, it's not foldable, but at 750 watts in this, and I think 1300 watts peak power, plus an automatic transmission, this is a more expensive bike. If someone says, I want a bike for commuting, I want it a little smaller, a little lighter so I can put it away, maybe in the office setting, because this is one bike, I think the number one concern for this bike is it getting stolen. I'm definitely going to put a GPS tracker on this, hide it in the controller area. It also has an automatic transmission and a belt drive. So it doesn't have your standard derailleur. In fact, let me move this out of the way. As you can see, a lot of these bikes are pretty light. Even that bike being bigger, the X Peak is also pretty light, but this has a belt drive. So it has a single speed transmission on what looks like a single speed on the outside, but it has is pinion gearing in the middle here, which is an automatic transmission that is definitely new to the economy market. So even this bike at $21.99, because of this efficiency system, on-road tires, and I think 14 amp hour battery, you get some mega range, mega power. It can definitely sustain heavier riders. Definitely want to stay within the weight range. I'll have that posted below as what the weight range would be for something like this. But this is the premium bike. At $21.99, people might go, that's crazy to spend on a bike like this. But to be honest, the components that are on here, a lot of them run up to $10,000. This pinion system here makes the bike price easily jump up to $6,000 in value. So at $2,100, this is one of the most highly advanced bikes in that price range that you're gonna find anywhere. And this smaller frame size, it only comes in one style of frame size right now. Easy to step through. It is still super light as far as a bike with what this has. All of these bikes have hydraulic brakes, even the XP Lite. Those who don't know what that means, it means that there is oil in here, so you don't have to put that much pressure on it, and it also automatically grabs very quickly on all of these without using that much strength, and that makes the bike a lot safer, a lot faster to stop. They all have 180 millimeter rotors, and these 3 have detachable pedals. The XP Lite has folding pedals, and I believe the XP 3.0 has folding. I'm not sure about the Expedition. It might have removable, but these are the different types of bikes that are available to you. What do I recommend? Well, everybody's going to be a little different, and it depends on what your riding conditions are. If you're going to be looking for a commuter, all of these can be used as commuters. Which one is the most ideal is depending, one could be your distance. The other is how hilly is your terrain. If you have a very hilly location, then something like this might be a little less convenient. Although it has a motor and a throttle, if it's very hilly with only one single gear, that's going to be a little difficult to get a little more leg power helping the motor if you need to. This is also a smaller motor. I believe it's only 350, but it peaks out higher. 300 watt. Now it does peak out higher, I think closer to 700, so you still get a lot of power out of something. In fact, I use this one a lot because it's so easy to get in and out of the garage. I even fold it and unfold it every time to put the battery in. This one also needs to have the key in when you're riding with it. But for the most part, if you need a foldable bike, look at the 3.0, look at the XP Lite. These are the bikes that, like I said, are dominant in the market, especially for the electric line, especially if you don't have space and you want the bike to be taken with you somewhere. It can fit in a trunk. Even the 3.0 can fit in a trunk like the size of a Camry or a Honda Accord, so the larger sedans. I don't think it will fit in a Corolla unless it's a hatchback. or a Civic, unless it's a hatchback, of course. Those will be fine. They'll all fit. All of those, the foldable bikes will definitely fit in a mini SUV like a RAV4, CRV, or of course any larger SUVs. The other benefit to something like this type of bike here is some may call it a throw-around bike, but it is really easy to just get going. It's so fast to just jump on it, and so simple, no gearing, nothing else you have to worry about. This will even fit in, this XP Lite will fit in a Corolla and a Civic trunk. You just have to be careful on how you're sticking it in there, but it can, because it's small enough to do something like that. Of course, the 3.0, 2.0, they're a little larger. That's gonna have to be probably a larger sedan. These do not fold. This one is folding, the neck folds down, so this could fit in the back seat of a car. It definitely should be able to fit in the back seat, in the back of a RAV4. In fact, I have a RAV4 now, so I'm gonna go ahead and try that. These two, you will need a bike rack for those. Thankfully, I believe that these are not that heavy, where most e-bike racks today should be able to sustain them. Now, I'm saying e-bike racks. So they do make them now. You might wanna make sure you're doing your research first before you consider one of these bikes that are on the larger size. If you are going to need to transport them, that you take into consideration the cost of one of those racks to put onto your truck or your SUV. I have an open bed truck, so I stick them in the bed of my truck all the time and strap it down really nicely. It's very quick for me to do, but an SUV would be a little harder for me to put these in here. The other thing about these bikes here is they're going to take a little bit of space, and definitely even when you park them in a bike rack. So if you are going to put them, if you're working in a place that you can take this in an elevator to take it upstairs, you're going to take a lot of space going in and out. Just keep that in mind. It's definitely a commuter bike that's going to be most likely staying outside. I like the fact that these seats all come off pretty quick. I always say that this is like not security feature, but I guess it could be, and that's not what it's intended. I usually make a mark on the seat post here so I know where it's at, but if you take this off and then you take these pedals off and then you lock it, it doesn't make it so desirable to steal, because you can't ride away with it. Obviously, they can carry it away if they can cut through the lock, but you will not be able to ride without pedals and a seat. And that's one way to make sure that you have a little more deterrent of someone stealing it. And because all of these can do that, when I go to the grocery store, I will consider latching this onto my backpack, putting the pedals inside the bag, and then I can go around the store, do my shopping, and then come back out later. But I still always lock it as well. But very easy to put this back in and stick this back in here, straighten this out, and then I'd be ready to go. Of course, if you're carrying your battery, you want to definitely have a backpack, because these batteries can be a little heavy. For the most part though, I would love to hear what questions you have. The other reason why I'd like to talk about the Lectric brand is this company is based in the US, and of course, if there is a problem with the bike, you have US-based support. You can talk to somebody and they'll help you out. Lectric is very responsive, a support team that is dedicated to making sure that you're happy. And yeah, being a US-based company makes a big deal, because I've been dealing with some customer support issues with some of the Chinese-based companies, and they do give support. Then when they ship out a part, it can sometimes take about a month, because it's coming from China if they don't have it at a local warehouse. And that's not uncommon. Keep that in mind. There's a lot of things to be considered when you're looking into a bike. I absolutely love the Lectric brand. Again, full disclosure, they did send all of these bikes to allow me to do review on them. It's not that I am saying this because they sent the bikes, but it's because firsthand I've tried them, and second, these are really good bikes, and I would recommend Lectric to even family first and foremost, a lot of times, hands down. Unless there's a specific bike that they're looking for that has something that Lectric does not offer, then yeah, I may consider telling them this is a bike that you might like. A full suspension off-road 20-inch fat tire bike, like full fat tire. They don't make those anymore. Their 1.0 was the closest. When they went to the 2.0, they made the tires a little thinner. So there are very specific bikes that some people know they want, still foldable. They have that type of need and want a full suspension, powerful motor. There's bikes that they're going to be looking for. I don't know of any US-based that might have that exact type of features on it. So there is a recommendation, but for the most part, anybody I've talked to out there, if budget is a factor, if foldable is a factor, if certain things that anything electric, this is by far the first one out. The one thing is I feel very confident in telling them they're going to get a good value. One thing about every single one of the electric bikes that I have ever ridden from the time I got my 1.0 is that every time I sat on an electric, I felt as though it is incredible how much I paid for that 1.0 of what I'm getting and how powerful it is versus some of the other bikes that I did try that were 2 or 3 times the cost. So again, this is not a Lectric sponsored per se. They did not ask me to do this video. I just happened to have all the bikes that were available, do some changes that I could do this review, and I could help some people who might want to know what kind of bike should I be looking for, and give you some idea where the questions that you want to start with that you need to answer. And then after that, I also recommend your local dealerships. A lot of them, if they have bikes that are affordable in your price range and they can support the bike and give you some help on a bike pick that they have, I'm very much for your local bike shops. The good thing about the Lectric brand is that they are also so well known because they've sold so many bikes. Many of the bike shops that now service any e-bike can service electric bikes as well. That's a big deal. You can have local service. Now, if it's within warranty, call Lectric first, because like I said, they'll do whatever they can to help you, walk you through whatever needs to be done. I am absolutely shocked at how easy some of these bikes are to be worked on. I'll do some more how-to videos on doing certain things on this, but take a look at the Lectric brand. You can find any of these bikes. This is the Lectric X-Peak. You can go to ebikeproducts.com/xpeak. That will bring you straight to one of these bikes here on that lineup. You can go to ebikeproducts.com/lite, L-I-T-E, ebikeproducts.com/lite. That'll get you this one here. And then there's going to be also a link to ebikeproducts.com/XPress. There's no E in the beginning. It's just XPress. I'll have all of these on the bottom. And of course, the Lectric One, ebikeproducts.com/one. And you get a chance to look at any of those. Those are affiliate links. So they do give me credit if you do buy one of those, and it does go to support this channel. Thank you very much for those of you who have used those links and helped me on the channel. If you have any questions, put it down below. I'll be honest on some suggestions I can give you. That's anything. If there's an electric line that you're looking for, I'd be happy to go ahead and share that with you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if there's anything I can answer questions for you, please put it in the comment. Maybe I'll make a video on it. That can be very helpful. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'm not going into detail of all the different components. Look in the links below, because I will have links to the actual video reviews for each of these. These two I'm making right now, they are in progress. I'm making the videos because they're so new. This one just came in. So I did my riding footage today, and I'm going to be doing some of the spec reviews coming up soon. This one here came in earlier in the week, late last week. So I will be still working on this. I was waiting to get the replacement fender. Sometimes, unfortunately, shipping does happen. But like I said, when I call Lectric right away, they're going to take care of getting me the fender for this to replace. It wasn't their fault. Sometimes FedEx is just a little rougher than they should. Whoever the driver was, something happened where the rack was pushing against down the wheel. So I asked them for help. They helped me. It was super easy to go ahead and get this up and running even without the fender. And honestly, it looks kind of cool without it. It's more like a sportier bike when you don't have a fender and a rack that's attached to it. So anyway, hope you liked the video. Thanks so much for listening to me ramble about the different electric bikes and why I like them so much. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Pedal to the metal, heartbeats race. Feel the wind blow, feel the thrills embrace. Every road a journey, freedom in disguise. Lectric keeps you going under sunny skies. Zooming fast and free, Lectric's where we wanna be. Power strong and price is sweet, adventure under our feet. Mountains or the city, e-bikes set us free. Riding over rivers, just you and me. Mountains or the city, e-bikes set us free. Riding over rivers, just you and me. Every kind of rider, together side by side. Lectric brings the power for a thrilling ride. Zooming fast and free, Lectric's where we wanna be. Power strong and prices sweet, adventure under our feet. Mountains or the city, Ebike set us free. Riding over rivers, just you and me.